Hello everyone, my name is Anya Hawkins. This is a complete video tutorial for the Calamagrostis sweater. It is the one I'm wearing right now. First, I will tell you a little about this pattern and I will show you how it looks in wear, and then we will knit one together step by step. It is quite a long video, but using chapters navigation you can skip ahead and find any technique and any stage of the process you need at the moment, or you can follow along from the beginning together with me and then just stop and return later. Also keep in mind that I'm a continental knitter and I will demonstrate techniques in that way. And the pattern itself is free and you can download it in my Ravelry store or on my Ko-fi page. Links are below in the info box. To get it for free on Ko-fi, at the checkout in the field how much would you like to pay, you just can type 0 and then you can click get it now and you will get the pattern for free. So it is spring now, but that pattern was actually inspired by a late autumn landscape. But come to think of it, to knit a sweater it's quite an endeavor, it's a long process, and if you start now, by the autumn it can be ready. At the same time, those colors do not scream an autumn sweater. Those colors can be used in spring or in any other time of year. And actually that is how the design has come to be in the first place, because of that color combination. It was inspired by a beautiful river valley, overgrown with willows and reeds and bush grass, and at the first glance this landscape looked quite monotone, just beige. But as I started hiking through it, all sorts of bright colors just popped at me. On this grey overcast day, the splashes of bright yellow and green and dark brown and black, they looked especially epic together. It was there, while walking through all this beauty, I decided to use this specific color palette to make stranded colorwork sweater. Altogether there are 7 different colors, and I don't recommend any specific yarn brand or brands, but I give recommendations which color should be light or dark in relations to each other. And essentially you can go in 2 different directions. You can choose colors similar to mine and get something like that, or you can choose your own colors and end up with something unique. And up close in the tutorial you would be able to see that the yarns I used are actually different in construction, and they even have different content. But they all are DK weight, and any irregularities in tension that were introduced because of that totally disappeared with proper blocking. I say that because I believe that any colorwork sweater can be a stash busting project. So don't be shy to mix and match yarns, make it fun. And now about the fit. What you see on the screen is the fit of the pattern without any modifications. But the instructions contain 5 places where you can make changes. So if you have different fit preferences, you can adjust the sweater according to them. First, the neck. It can be a sweater with a neckband or with a turtleneck. Then the depth of the yoke. You can control it if you want, as well as the length of the body. And finally, you can control the width and the length of the sleeves. Pattern explains how to do all modifications. You can tweak all those places, or you can leave them as they are and get the fit you see on the screen. And if you want to know more about that sweater and about my journey of designing it and writing a pattern for it, you can watch my project vlog about it. The link as usual is down below in the info box. And now let's get to the knitting. To knit Calamagrostis sweater we will need yarn, DK weight of 7 different colors. You can take colors similar to mine or go into different direction and choose your own. If you are substituting colors for your own, know that color 1 and color 3 should be dark. Color 2, color 4, color 5, main color, and color 6 should be medium of approximately same color value. And color 7 should be lightest, in my case it's white. Approximate yardage for each yarn you can get in a pattern. We will also need needles of 3 different sizes and of different diameters. Smallest size for working ribbing on the neck and on cuffs. Slightly bigger size for working stockinette portions of the sweater. And the biggest size for doing the colorwork portions. We will also need stitch marker, tapestry needle to weave in the ends, waste yarn for putting stitches on hold and for casting on, and a crochet hook for casting on. And let's begin. Take waste yarn and crochet hook and make a slip knot. There are many ways to make one. I do it like that. I tension the yarn between my fingers with the tail end on the thumb, then I place a hook on top of the yarn, point it downward, and then bring it up from underneath towards me. That creates this sliding loop of yarn, and then I grab the working yarn and pull it through this loop. This is our slip knot, adjust it, and now we can do our provisional cast on. First, tension the yarn as you usually do in knitting, then take your needle and place it on top of the yarn but under the hook, like that. To give all this stability, hold the tail end of the yarn against your needle with your thumb. Now, to cast on with a crochet hook is a two-step process. First step, make a stitch. For that, grab the working yarn and pull it through the loop on your hook. First stitch is done. Here it is on the needle. Second step is to return to the working position. To do that, hold your newly done stitch with your thumb and then slide everything to the point of the needle and allow the working yarn to jump off of the needle and get to the back again. Slide away from the point. Again, step 1, make a stitch. Grab the working yarn and pull it through the loop. And step 2, return to the working position. Hold your newly done stitch with your thumb, slide everything to the point of the needle, allow the yarn to get to the back again and slide away from the point. Cast on that way as many stitches as you need for your size. Since I need to cast on quite a large amount of stitches, I use one trick. Now I will show you how to make counting the big amount of stitches easier. After casting on 10 stitches, I place a stitch marker on the needle. It's quite thin, it doesn't get in the way. I just hold it together with my last stitch and continue casting on. And that way I need to count only up to 10. I'm done casting on stitches. I casted on as many as I need, and now I do not return to the working position. I'm not getting my yarn back behind the needle because at the end of cast on I need to do a small crochet chain. For it, just grab the working yarn and pull it through the loop on your hook several times in a row. Make a chain as long as you want, but an inch or a couple of centimeters will be enough. Stretch out your last stitch and cut the waste yarn. This is only the start of our cast on. Now take the yarn of color number 2 and knit with it all the stitches on the needle. If you used stitch markers to help you count, remove them while knitting those stitches. This row we are knitting is not the first row of the sweater. It is the cast on edge. When we will remove waste yarn later, those stitches will become live edge for picking up. And now distribute stitches evenly on the needle and make sure that you're not twisting them. Lay your needles on flat surface to better see that the cast on edge is everywhere on the same side. Now we will join in the round. First, place marker on the needle to mark beginning of the round and just start knitting and knit to the end of the round. On the next round, for some sizes, you will need to increase stitches by working make 1 increases. Make 1 increase is worked like that. In a place where you need to increase, find the strand between the stitches and lift it to the left needle. We need to knit this strand twisted, but first take a look at it. If it lays on the needle pointing to the left, then you will end up with a left leaning increase. You can lift it in a different way, so it will point to the right, then you will end up with a right leaning increase. You can choose to lean your increases to the right or to the left, it doesn't matter, as long as you always do them the same. If you're making right leaning increase, this strand is pointing to the right, then you need to knit it through the front, like that, and then it will be twisted. If you lifted your strand that it points to the left and you decide to make always left linear increase, then you need to knit it through the back, and then it will be twisted. Increase stitches in this round if you need to. How much to increase and at what rate for your particular size you can read in the pattern. Next, we will create a scoop at the front of the neckline, and we will do it with German short rows. Row number 1. Knit a certain amount of stitches. It's a different amount for different sizes. In my case, it's 10 stitches. And then turn work. Row number 2 starts with making double stitch. To do that, slip the stitch to the right needle and then pull on the working yarn so that your stitch looks like 2 stitches on the needle. And then, since we turned our work around, we are now on the wrong side of the fabric. We need to purl. Purl a certain amount of stitches. Again, it's a different amount for different sizes. And on your way, you will encounter beginning of the round marker. Just slip it. And when you have purled the amount of stitches you need for your size, turn work. Now row number 3 on the right side again starts with making a double stitch. For it, slip your first stitch and pull on the working yarn until the stitch looks like 2 stitches on the needle. And then knit a certain amount of stitches. Slip beginning of the round marker when you get to it. Also, on your way you will come across the double stitch. Knit it as a regular stitch under both legs. Just knit it as one stitch. Turn work. And now row number 4 on the wrong side. Make double stitch. Again, slip your last stitch to the right needle and pull on the yarn so the stitch will look like 2 stitches on the needle, and then purl. Once you get to beginning of the round marker, slip it. Purl the rest of the stitches you need to purl. On your way you will encounter the double stitch. Again, purl it as a regular stitch under both legs. Purl everything together. Turn work. And last row, row number 5 on the right side, make double stitch. Slip your stitch and pull on the yarn so the stitch looks like 2 stitches. And knit to beginning of the round marker. The neck shaping is done. Work now will continue in the round. Round number 1 is increase round, and it goes knit 6, make 1, knit 7, make 1, knit 6, make 1 for size 1, or knit 5, make 1, knit 3, make 1 for other sizes. Don't forget to make your increases always the same way. I explained how to increase a little while ago. If you skipped that part because for your size increases weren't required, I will briefly demonstrate again. Find a strand between the stitches, this one, and lift it to the left needle. If your strand, when it's on the needle, points to the right, it will be right linear increase, and you will need to knit it through the front. If you lift your strand and place it on the needle so it will point to the left, it will make a left linear increase, and you will need to knit it through the back. And then it will be twisted. I prefer to make left linear increases. When you will come across a double stitch and it will fall between increases, just work it as one regular stitch. Then knit 1 round in plain stockinette. I knitted 1 round, and now it's time to change to bigger needle and start color work. For sizes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, it's chart A. For sizes 7, 8 and 9, it's chart B. They start the same though, so I can demonstrate now how to knit color work. First, take a look at the chart. The chart is in black, gray and white, so you can substitute colors. Just write down which symbol is which yarn for you. We are knitting from right to left, and that's how we will read the chart. There are many ways to hold two yarns. I do it like that. I place both yarns on my forefinger, and to separate them I put my middle finger between them, and then I tension the yarn with the rest of my fingers as I usually do. I personally hold background color on the right, but the main thing here is to always hold yarns the same way. Make a note for yourself or even take a picture, so if you take a break from the project you will know how you did it before. Remember, we are knitting with bigger needle. First stitch of the pattern repeat is in background color, in color number 2. Pick up background color and knit one stitch. Then pick up contrasting color yarn and knit one stitch with it. Adjust stitches on the needle. They should not be bunched up together. Spread them wide and don't grip your yarn too tightly. At that moment the float at the back is formed. Then knit one stitch in a background color again. Then in the chart you will see this symbol. It is make one increase in background color. Make one. Remember, you should always lean your increases the same way. If you made make one left before, make one left now. If you did make one right, do make one right. And then knit one more stitch in background color. You see how little space these 3 stitches take up on the needle. If you knit your contrasting color stitch right away, the float at the back will be very short. So spread them as wide as they can go and don't grip your yarns too tightly, so the float at the back will be long and relaxed. And then knit one stitch in contrasting color. And again make sure that stitches are spread wide on the needle, because even one stitch long float can mess up the tension of your fabric. Every time you change in colors, you should adjust stitches on your needle. Now knit 3 in background color. Spread the stitches on the needle. Knit 1 in contrasting color. Spread the stitches on the needle. Knit 1 in background color. And then make 1 in background color. The pattern repeat is over. Depending on your size, you will repeat this section from 10 to 18 times in the course of the round. Here's a useful tip for keeping track of things. After each pattern repeat, place a stitch marker on the needle. It should be different from the beginning of the round marker. Then, if you'll stop or get distracted, you will easily find your place in the chart, because every pattern repeat will be separated by this marker. And start this repeat over again. Knit 1 in background color, spread your stitches, knit 1 in contrasting color, spread the stitches, knit 1 in background color, make 1 in background color, knit 1 more stitch in background color, spread the stitches, knit 1 in contrasting color, spread the stitches, knit 3 in background color, spread the stitches, knit 1 in contrasting color, spread the stitches, knit 1 in background color, and then make 1 in background color. And place marker. Repeat to the end. If you have trouble handling both yarns at the same time, there is a way to knit color work with only one yarn at a time. It takes longer, but if you want to try this technique, I have a tutorial on how to do it. Link is in your PDF pattern and down below in the info box. Only if you will knit with one color at a time, knit in the background color first, because increases are in it. First round of color work is done. All the stitches are on bigger needles now. Don't forget your beginning of the round marker. It may fall off, you just place it back. Next round is just color work without increases. Knit 3 in contrasting color. Spread your stitches wide. Knit 1 in background color 3 times. And slip marker. Repeat this sequence to the end of the round. Follow the chart to the end, switch colors whenever needed, pay attention to increases. And when you'll have too many stitches to work comfortably on these needles, change to a needle with a longer cable. It is easier to do on a round where there is no color work and no increases. Just take longer needle and knit with it to the end. And once you did that, do not lose your beginning of the round marker, because it may fall off when changeover happens. And after changing to the needle with a longer cable, continue working from the chart to the end of it. After completing a whole chart, on the next round start chart C. There are no increases in this one, just color work. And the size of the repeat is the same, so you can continue using your stitch markers to separate repeats. When all of the chart C is done, cut color 6 yarn, leaving a tail for weaving in later. Work will continue in color 5. And since the color work portion is done, on the next round change to smaller needle. So take your smaller needle and knit with it in color 5 to the end of the round. This change of needle sizes will help even out the difference in gauge between stockinette and color work, since the latter can be denser than the former. Remove the markers that separated sections of color work in the process, and don't forget to place back beginning of the round marker after you're done. Next, in the instructions are several rounds of plain stockinette, but I highly recommend you to stop working on the body and work on the neck first. You can do the neck ribbing as a last step, as it's usually done, but if you will do it now, you will be able to see if any fit adjustments are necessary at this point. Let me show you what I mean. If I place stitches of the body on hold, I'm using waste yarn, but you can use stitch holders, and then try it on, unfinished neck will not sit right. It will not let me judge how long the yoke portion of the sweater actually is. If I do the neck and then try it on, it's completely different story. Now I can see whether I need to knit more plain rounds before separating body and sleeves or not. Of course, it's only relevant if you knit for yourself or for someone who can try the sweater on in the process. If you don't have such an opportunity, just measure and knit to the length of a standard size as in the pattern. So let's work on the neck next. We will need circular needle that we prepared for working the ribbon, a stitch marker, and color 1 yarn. Find the crochet chain of the provisional cast on and start undoing it. And once you get to the fabric, as soon as the stitch is free, pick it up on your needle. Then slowly undo the next crochet chain stitch and pick up the next stitch. Or you can even pick up the stitch first and only then pull on your provisional yarn and free it. And like that, one by one, pick up all the stitches of the neck. Once all stitches are on the needle, place beginning of the round marker, attach color 1 yarn and knit to the end of the round. We're just knitting first round and not doing ribbing yet, because it will allow us to avoid blips of different color that appear on purl stitches when the switch between colors happen. On the next round, start 2 by 2 ribbing. Knit 2, and then purl 2 to the end. Repeat previous round until neckband will measure 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters if you are doing the version of the sweater with a neckband. If you are doing turtleneck version, knit for 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. Then bind off all the stitches using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off method. Remove stitch marker, then work first stitch. It's a knit stitch, so knit it. When next stitch is a knit stitch, make a reverse yarn over, so the yarn goes from the back to the front. Knit 1 stitch, pass the yarn over the knit stitch, drop it from the needle, then pass the previous stitch over the last stitch and drop it from the needle. When next stitch is a purl stitch, make a regular yarn over. meaning the yarn goes from the front to the back, then purl one stitch, pass the yarn over the last stitch, and then pass previous stitch over the last stitch. And work like that in a pattern. Let's see it again. Next stitch is a purl, do regular yarn over, purl 1, pass yarn over last stitch, and pass previous stitch over last stitch. When next stitch is a knit stitch, do reverse yarn over, knit 1, pass yarn over the knit stitch, and then pass previous stitch over your last stitch. Continue like that until there's gonna be one stitch left on the needle. Cut the yarn, leaving a tail for weaving in, and pull this tail through the last stitch. Now we need to eliminate this gap. For that, thread the tail into tapestry needle, then find your first bound off stitch, it's this V, and insert the needle under both legs of this stitch and pull the yarn through. Then insert the needle into the middle of the last stitch, right into the place where the working yarn is coming from, and pull the yarn through. And flip to the inside and weave in this tail into the column of the knit stitches. If you did put stitches on hold for trying the sweater on, return them to the needle and knit appropriate amount of plain rounds for your size. And now let's separate for sleeves. First, knit the specified for your size number of stitches for the back. Now take the waist yarn and tapestry needle and transfer onto them the sleeve stitches. Again, the number of stitches for each size is different. Tie the ends of the waist yarn for safety. Now take your right needle, and onto it we need to cast on the stitches for the underarm, using backwards loop method. For that, tension the yarn on your finger. It can be your forefinger or it can be your thumb, doesn't matter. I prefer to do it with my forefinger. Go with the needle under the strand of yarn that goes from the ball, so the working yarn will form a loop like that. Then remove from it your finger and tighten it on your needle. Again, wrap the yarn around your finger. Go with your needle under the strand of yarn that goes from the ball and tighten the resulted loop. Continue like that until you will cast on the necessary number of stitches for the underarm. Once you casted on the necessary number of stitches for the underarm, take up your left needle again and knit with the working yarn the stitches for the front. And try not to leave a gap here. When you knit your first stitch, tighten it really well, because there shouldn't be any gap between casted on stitches and the fabric of the front. After you knitted the front stitches, take the waist yarn again and transfer to it the stitches of the sleeve. And once again cast on stitches for the underarm, just as before. And knit the rest of the stitches of the back. Once you get to beginning of the round marker, remove it and knit to the stitches that you casted on for the underarm. Here are those stitches. Knit half of them. If the stitches tightened up on the needle that you have trouble getting into them, you can stretch out the stitch first and then knit it. So once you knitted half of the stitches for the underarm, place beginning of the round marker. Continue working in the round in plain stockinette in this color. This straight one-colored section of the body is the place for fit adjustments. Knowing that bottom colorwork portion together with the ribbed hem will measure 6.5 inches or 16.5 centimeters, you can lengthen or shorten plain portion to change the length of the sweater according to your personal preference. After you knitted as much as you need, on the last plain round, for some sizes you will need to increase 2 stitches. If for your size you need to do it, increase 1 stitch here at the beginning of the round and here at the middle. On the next round, change to bigger needle for collar work and start working from the chart D. It has a repeat of only 4 stitches. Work from chart D until it's complete. Then cut the color to yarn. Leave a tail for weaving in later. Change to smaller needle for hem ribbon and knit with color 1 round in stockinette. We are knitting the first round in stockinette and not in ribbon to get nice clean transition between colors. As usual, when changing needles, don't lose your beginning of the round marker. Then work 2 by 2 rib. Knit 2 and then purl 2 to the end of the round. Repeat this round 15 more times or until the ribbon will measure 2 inches or 5 centimeters. Then bind off using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind-off method. I showed it when we were binding off the neck, and I will briefly demonstrate it again. For that, work first stitch in pattern, it's a knit stitch. Then we will need to bind off next stitch, it is again knit stitch, and to bind off a knit stitch, first do reverse yarn over, then knit 1, then take yarn over and pass it over the last stitch, and then take previous stitch and pass it over the last stitch. Next stitch is a purl stitch, and to bind off a purl stitch, do regular yarn over, then purl, then take yarn over and pass it over the last stitch, then take previous stitch and pass it over the last stitch. So remember this rule. Before purl stitch, regular yarn over. Before knit stitch, reverse yarn over. I understand that on this black yarn you cannot see exactly what I'm doing and how it looks like, so if you want to execute this bind-off method but have trouble with it, I have a separate tutorial dedicated specifically for this technique. So continue like that until you will have only 1 stitch left on the needle. Then cut the yarn, leaving a tail for weaving in. Pull the tail through the last loop and tighten. Now we need to eliminate this gap. For that, thread the tail into tapestry needle. Find your first bound off stitch, insert tapestry needle under both legs of it and pull the yarn through. Then insert tapestry needle into the middle of the last bound off stitch, right in the place where working yarn is coming from, and pull the yarn through. Now flip to the inside and weave in this tail into the column of knit stitches. The body of the sweater is done. Now it's time to work on the sleeves. First, take your circular needle and transfer to it the sleeve stitches. Remove the waste yarn. Now with background color yarn we need to pick up and knit stitches from the underarm starting from the middle. For my size I casted on here 12 stitches, so I need to pick up 6. Each picked up stitch corresponds with a column of knit stitches. This is the first column, second, third, fourth, fifth, and this is a column of knit stitches number 6. I will pick up right from the middle of it. Then next stitch from the middle of the next column of knit stitches, and from the next. And now I got to this gap before sleeve stitches. From it we need to pick up 2 stitches right from the fabric. I will pick up one from here and one from here. These 2 stitches will help me fill this gap, so I will not end up with a hole in this place. Then knit sleeve stitches that are on the needle. Here's a gap again. Again pick up and knit 2 stitches from it. And then pick up remaining underarm stitches. Then place on the needle beginning of the round marker and proceed working in the round in stockinette until the sleeve from underarm will measure 2 inches or 5 centimeters. After knitting for 2 inches or 5 centimeters, there is first decrease round. It goes like this. After beginning of the round marker, knit 1, then knit 2 together. Then knit until there's gonna be 3 stitches left until beginning of the round marker, and then an SSK decrease. SSK decrease is done like that. Slip 1 stitch as if to knit, then slip 2nd stitch as if to knit. It is an SS of the abbreviation, slip slip. Return them back to the left needle, and then K of the SSK, knit them together through the back. After that, knit leftover stitch. After this decrease round, you will need to knit a certain amount of plain rounds. It's different amount for different sizes, and this sequence, decrease round plus certain amount of plain rounds, you will repeat several times. How many times, again, depends on your size. This is another place for fit adjustments. Some people like roomier sleeves, some like them more narrow. The sleeves of this sweater are fitted, they are narrow enough, so you probably would not want to make more decreases than in the pattern. But if you want a roomier sleeve, you can do less decreases. Just knit plain stockinette round instead of decrease round. If you decide to do it, omit an even number of decrease rounds, like replace 2 decrease rounds with plain rounds, or 4, or 6, or 8. Then the sleeve will end up with the number of stitches dividable by 4, which is needed for color work at the cuff. And if after making some decreases there is gonna be 2 little stitches for this needle, change to DPNs 2 circulars or 1 long circular for magic loop. I use long circular, and to set up for any of those methods, divide stitches in a way that this place where you need to make decreases will be in the middle of the needle. Let me show you what I mean. When I'm changing to long cable needle, I first knit approximately a quarter of the sleeve stitches, and then I pull on the needle to create a loop with the cable. I turn the sleeve around, and then I knit approximately half of the total number of sleeve stitches. And then I pull on the needle again to create a second part of the loop. Turn the sleeve again, and knit the rest of the stitches. And so the magic loop is set up. Don't forget to place back beginning of the round marker. And now all the stitches where decreases are happening are together and clearly visible for convenience. For most sizes, though, there are gonna be enough stitches to work on 40 cm 16 inches circular needles down until the cuff. After last decreases, continue working in the round in stockinette in this color until you reach the needed length. This plain portion of the sleeve without any shaping in it is another place for fit adjustments. The bottom portion of the sleeve, colorwork plus ribbed cuff together will add 6.5 inches or 16.5 centimeters. So you can lengthen or shorten a sleeve to fit your taste if you change the number of plain rounds here. And even if your row gauge is different than in the pattern, by this point you already knitted the body and the colorwork motif is the same, so you will definitely know how much this portion will take. After plain portion, knit from the chart D. On the first round of colorwork, change to bigger needle. After completing the chart, cut the light yarn, leave a tail for weaving in. Change to small-sized needles for cuff ribbing. It can be DPNs 2 circulars or 1 long circular for magic loop. Knit 1 plain round with black yarn. Then start working 2 by 2 rib. Knit 2 and then purl 2 to the end of the round. Repeat this round until the ribbon will measure 2 inches or 5 centimeters. And then bind off using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind-off method. I showed it on the neck and on the hem. If you don't want to go back but need a quick reminder, here's how it's done. Knit the first stitch, then next stitch is a knit stitch. To bind off it, do reverse yarn over and then knit 1. Then take this yarn over and pass it over the last stitch. Then take previous stitch and pass it over the last stitch. To bind off purl stitch, do regular yarn over, then purl 1, then take yarn over and pass it over the last stitch, then take previous stitch and pass it over the last stitch. Continue like that until there's gonna be only one stitch left on the needle. Cut the yarn, pull this tail through the last loop. Then, to get rid of this gap, thread the tail into tapestry needle. Find the first bound off stitch, insert the tapestry needle under both legs of it, pull the tail through. Then insert the tapestry needle into the middle of the last bound off stitch, right into the place where the working yarn was coming from, and pull the yarn through. The gap is closed, flip to the inside, and weave in the tail into the column of knit stitches. Do the second sleeve the same way, and if you altered the fit, don't forget to repeat all your alterations too. The last thing to do is to weave in all the ends. Choose an end, thread it into tapestry needle. Before weaving in, find the last stitch, or first stitch in that case, and check if it looks okay. So it's not too stretched out, but at the same time relaxed enough, because if you will pull on this tail too hard, the stitch may disappear into the fabric, and we don't want that. So adjust it so it looks fine, and then weave it in on the inside. Go diagonally, catching pearl bumps, preferably of the same color if they are available, and change direction a couple of times. From time to time, pull on your fabric to make sure that you're not scrunching it up. Do it with all the ends. Depending on the yarn, your underarm area may look good as it is, but some yarns show inconsistencies in tension very well, and you may want to make it look better. Here, the close-up of the place where we picked up 2 additional stitches from the gap between the body and the sleeve. Those 2 stitches look looser than I would like. To fix it, go on the inside. At the middle of the underarm, there is a tail. Thread it into tapestry needle. We will use it to fix the tension. First, we need to get from here, to this corner. Start weaving it in, just a couple of stitches, to get there to this place that we want to fix. Don't forget to adjust your fabric so you will not scrunch it up. Make sure that you're at the right spot. These are 2 stitches that I want to fix. I place my finger on them, and this is there on the inside. And now with this tail I just go around those little holes, catching pearl bumps, and tighten it. That was one hole, and this is another. Same thing. And tighten. Look on the face side. They are much neater looking now. And for them to stay like that, I need to continue weaving in this tail so it will not come loose. But I have the same problem on the other side of the underarm. And this tail is not long enough for me to go there and repeat this operation, so I just will cut it and take a new length of yarn. I first weave it into the fabric a little so it stays in place. And then I go to my problematic stitches and go around them to make this place tighter. There's one loose stitch, and here's another loose stitch. I've gone around both of them, check the face side if it looks okay, and weave in the rest of this tail before cutting off the yarn. And now the underarm looks much better. And the last step to do is to block finished sweater. Do not skip this step, even if it's tempting to just start wearing the sweater right now. Look at how bubbly the fabric looks at the yoke before blocking. And here it is after blocking. The fabric is much smoother and drapier and just softer to the touch, so block it. It is worth it. Your finished sweater will look much more polished. Well, that was it for this tutorial. I hope it was useful to you. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.